Good evening, Cheeseheads. We are live on the Cheese Room podcast. Fresh from his slumber, here's HG. How are you this evening, mate? Has it sunk in that Austria are through to the last 16? Is it feel real yet? Does it feel real yet? I should say.
I'm definitely more excited to make the last than I am about England, but yeah, it was real. A Saturday night, I am super eager still, but yeah, there's so much football going on. Obviously, the 4 games tomorrow night, but yeah, England made it too. We fulfill Pflicht. They say a dutiful win. Like it doesn't translate at all from German. A Pflichtsieg. But yeah, something that we got the job done, and so we can't complain too much. But yeah, you coming back from slumber. I don't know how much in that second half I missed. Maybe I came on and Mings was on, and I was like, did someone get sent off? I had no idea what was going on. But yeah, we got the 3 points, which is good.
Yeah, a good 3 points. And obviously England's goal difference, played 3, 2 goals scored, none conceded. I suppose you could say we're tight at the back, but it's almost like watching Jose Spurs, but possibly even more boring. But if we cast our minds back to the first half, we were good for at least 15 minutes. HG started off really brightly. Sterling hit the post, trying to lob the keeper, if I remember rightly, if I can remember that far back. I thought... obviously, Saka and Grealish got the nod today. I thought they both looked good. What did you make of Saka's performance?
I mean, the goal really, for me, came from Saka trying to take a man on in his own half. Saka and Grealish both look like international players as far as I'm concerned. Saka has ball control. I mean, fantastic. He is very one-footed, but he's not bad with his back to goal. I mean, I like Saka. I know I probably shouldn't say that as a Spurs fan, but I think he's a quality player. So, yeah, it was good to see him play well. Grealish, again, faded a bit, but obviously didn't play the whole second half. But again, there was a touch in the first half. I think Pickford knocked it long, and Grealish, kind of in the centre circle, just, one touch, killed it stone dead, and we were able to move forward. That's what you want. I think technique is key at this level. England for so long have prioritised, a bit of pace and power. But if you can't keep the ball, if you're not good with the ball, then you will struggle at this level. So, I think Saka and Grealish both play pretty well. I will be surprised if they both start in the last 16. And to be honest, I'd be somewhat surprised if one of us. But I don't think they can be unhappy with their performance tonight.
No. And I thought Grealish. What I like about Grealish, as you say, he looked at home at international level, but the way he can take a man on, he sort of glides past people in a way we've not seen a midfielder do for England in many, many years. And it was a beautiful flighted ball over, wasn't it, for Sterling's header? Sterling possibly the shortest player on the pitch of all people to score with his head. Beautiful flighted ball over, and obviously Saka started to move. So yeah, the two of them combining to give us that early goal. And I mean, at that point, I thought we were going to go on and score a few more. Didn't you, HG?
Absolutely. I mean, I really did. We did look pretty good in that first 15 minutes. You're right about the chance that Sterling had in the first. I mean, I think it was in the first 2 minutes. Grealish is the closest thing to Gascoigne since Gascoigne. I mean, that is like English players. We don't often produce players like that. I'm sure the watching might think that Grealish is more Irish than English, but yeah, it's an interesting one because I think when Gascoigne was part of the team in 1990 and even later on, he was never really a massive part of the side. He was never really first choice for any manager outside of Venables. It's going to be interesting with Grealish because he's a different type of attacker. He likes to come in off the left hand side. But in that first half, I feel like Sterling, Grealish, and who's the other one? Oh my gosh, I can't believe I've forgotten. And Saka.
Saka, yeah.
They were switching positions a lot. Like that, they weren't really sticking to their side. I think we looked pretty good, and Kane obviously loved it as well. He liked to have options around him. So the first 45 minutes, I think England were quite good, and probably the most exciting 45 minutes we've seen from England in it was maybe this year. I don't remember them playing particularly well in many games recently, but they looked competent. They weren't just relying on set pieces or half chances. They looked like they could create a few more.
Absolutely. Well, Sterling, I just want to come back to one thing. Sterling, man of the match today for you? He obviously hit the post, scored the goal, didn't really put too many feet wrong. I think he got caught offside a couple of times and sold a couple of shit passes. But in general, his all-round play was pretty good, wasn't it? And I've criticised him a lot, but we have to call out that he had a decent game.
Did he win man of the match? I don't know who it was.
I'm not sure if he did. I'm not sure who won man of the match. But
I would hope it wasn't Sterling.
Who would be your man of the match? Saka.
I think he played better than Sterling did. Saka, I really do. I just think Sterling is the type of player that needs others to play well for him to look good. Let me put it like this, right? Jack Grealish, best player in an average Premier League team, carries them to the mid-table security that they had this season. Bukayo Saka, pretty much the same. Carried a mid-table team to safety. Who were, obviously Arsenal were flirting with relegation towards the start of the season. Saka he's their best player. I mean, Saka to me, it looks like being the next person to sign for City from Arsenal. He's that good. Those two players, even though they can't do it by themselves, they are a massive catalyst for their team's success. Sterling has never been that. At Liverpool, he played well when he had Sturridge and Suarez around him. At Man City, we know the talent Man City have got. I just don't see it with Sterling. I think he's a great option off the bench, but I don't necessarily trust him. And I think that we need to have 11 players who can play well and who can take responsibility. And Sterling has never really felt that player to me. He's not a bad player at all, Raheem Sterling. I mean, he's obviously scored both our goals, so we're indebted to him for how successful we've been in the group stages. But I would be looking to have a team that didn't have him in it, if I'm honest. So yeah, he didn't play badly, but I don't, just because he scored doesn't mean I think he should start the next game.
Leading on to that, we had a disjointed second half, I would say. Well, maybe not disjointed. Maybe it was by design. We stifled the play, and we never looked like really conceding in the second half. When in the first half we were quite open. Is it by design we play this defensive, turgid, Mourinho-esque style of football? Very un-Spurs-like, very un-England-like, but it looks like it's kind of here to stay, doesn't it, HG?
Southgate. I mean, this is it. International football is all about the result. I mean, we have to remember that. You don't get anything for playing well and losing, especially when it's the knockout stages. It is a shame because I think everyone thinks that there is a better balance out there. I think the Czechs in the first half were quite attacking, and they left a few gaps for us to exploit. I think in the second half they closed up a little bit, so they were better defensively, but they weren't as good attacking, and so it became a bit of a nothing game in the second half. With no one really taking any chances. England looked like a functional team that might have a bit of star quality every now and again, but when it comes to unlocking defenses, I mean, we've seen it before with England. If we play a side that likes to defend deep, we struggle, and we tend to lose or draw against teams that we should beat. It's going to be tough. We should have a very difficult next game, and hopefully there'll be space for us to exploit, and it'll be a chance for us to maybe play better football. But there is always this worry with England that we're not really guaranteed to get the job done by being defensive, and we don't really know if we can get the job done by playing attacking football. It is a bit of a crapshoot, and I think as fans we would like to have a bit more confidence that no matter the situation, we can get the job done, because I do think that we've got a decent set of players who could do it, but are we just that little bit too defensive? Does fortune favour the brave? I think it does. I really do. We can all hark back to Greece in 2004 when they won it by being really defensive and nicking goals, but I just don't see that happening. I think that these days you really do have to have a bit of everything, and maybe England are just that little bit too defensive.
Maybe. Well, it's going to be a tough draw. I mean, they call it the group of death, but no one actually died in it, did they? Only Hungary, was it? Is it Hungary? Dropped out?
Yeah, and Hungary aren't out of it either. Like I was looking at the possible. I mean, let's imagine for a second that France beat Portugal. That's not, too outrageous. That's
It's quite likely. I would
I
think.
don't say I don't want to say quite likely, but it is possible. But if that was to happen and the Hungarians beat the Germans, which is probably a lot more unlikely, but if they did,
Unlikely.
then Hungary would be second in the group, right? And that means one of Portugal and Germany would be out. So it is possible that we get Hungary in the next stage. It is unlikely. I would imagine, going on what we've seen, that it's going to be. Well, I mean, I don't know. It's Germany or France, I would say. The Germans, you'd imagine, will beat Hungary. The
And
French
then they'll
are
beat.
the French are unlikely to lose to Portugal. But yeah, it's all up in the air. It could be any one of those four. If England were to somehow fluke Hungary in the next stage, then you'd be sitting here going, "Great, we've got a really good chance." And then part of you would be thinking, "Yeah, but we had a really good chance 5 years ago when we lost to Iceland, and all the other times where we found ourselves in similar situations where, yeah, England have frozen on the biggest stage." It's yeah. I mean, I don't want to think about it. I want to think that we're at home. That's a positive
Yeah.
thing. The last 16 game will be at Wembley in front of our fans. Maybe more fans than we had tonight. I don't know what the rules are, but certainly.
Oh yeah, it will be. So the next round, there's 45,000. So there's 22,500 there today for the group. Next round gets 45,000, and the semi-final gets 60,000. The final gets 60,000. So it will look pretty full.
Yeah,
so that is a stonking home advantage.
Yeah, it should be. I mean, it really should be. 45,000 screaming English fans, and it's not as if anyone can go and watch. So, like, whoever we play, there will be no fans of that team in England because the quarantine measures are so tough. They've been talking about it here in Austria that there are 1,750 tickets available for Austrian fans, but no one can afford to travel because you have to quarantine. You can't actually go to the game. So yeah, it's gonna feel like 90%, 100% of that stadium is going to be behind England. That's a great thing. But I think that you'd like to have a home game. If we can really get through this next one, then you might start to believe a little bit. But from what we've seen so far, it's tough to think that it's tough to think that football will actually come home.
Well, it'll be at home. It just means we won't be in the final. I thought Kane was poor again today, HG. I mean, first sort of 20 minutes, half hour, he was in there, and he missed that chance, seemed to take that quite badly, and then really quite disjointed and sort of lackluster second half. But it's hard to criticise him too much because the whole team felt like it was lackluster second half. But he's gone 3 goals without scoring. I mean, that 3 games without scoring, that's about as many games as he went for Spurs all season without scoring, isn't it?
Yeah, it doesn't happen very often. Like I know that his record for England used to be incredible. I think it was something like 32 goals in 45 games. And I'm not sure what it is now, but it's not as good. It is currently 34 goals in 56. So he's only got 2 goals in his last 11 games for England. That is, that is not good enough for Harry Kane. You're right. That chance that he had he taken it, we'd be sitting here thinking, he's back, he's full of confidence again. And you're right, he did look really down when the keeper saved it. Had he just put it on the ground, it would have gone in, but he tried to lift it off a little bit, and the keeper just stuck his hand out and was perhaps a bit fortunate. But, Kane at his pomp, those go in the corner. So the issue that England have is that if Kane doesn't play, I mean, we all know he will, but if he doesn't play, then Calvert-Lewin would come in, most likely. And Calvert-Lewin is a completely different type of striker. You'd have to alter the way you play to suit Calvert-Lewin. So,
and Calvert-Lewin hasn't had a minute yet.
No. I mean, he may have come on. I think Kane's been substituted.
He might have come on for about 5-10 minutes, but not long.
Not
long.
long.
Rashford's come on, I thought, both times for Kane, hasn't he? Either way, he's not played hardly at all. And to be honest, Rashford looked poor when he came on as well. Poor touches and didn't really offer up much. So we need Kane firing. We absolutely need Kane firing.
Look, I think we said it last night. Like, England are without a plan. Like, the ingredients might be there, but the recipe isn't. And but Kane is still the best chance. He's the garlic, the thing that every good recipe needs. That's Harry Kane. But yeah, I'm to me, Kane isn't the problem. He may not be playing well, but the problem is we don't really know how we want to play. And when it gets to knockout tournaments, you need to have a set system and an understanding of how to do it. Even if you are super defensive and play on the counter, that would be something that you've practiced, that you're good at. And England, despite dominating, qualification, we won what, 9 out of 10? Like,
Yeah.
it's quite easy for England to use most of those games as friendlies and to really decide on what is the best system. We've seen with Germany, they hadn't played 3-4-3 at all, really. I think they played one friendly game with it, and now they're playing it in the tournament, and they went out and beat Portugal playing that way. So it's frustrating when you see that other countries with quality players are able to produce something, and England still seem very reliant on their main striker producing the goods. It's it is frustrating. It really is.
Well, there is one relief and one good thing to come from today. I mean, England qualified top, so that is a good thing. Let's not take anything away. But it feels like a defeat when you play like that in the second half. It just, honestly, it felt dreadful. Two questions for you.
Go on. Sorry, questions.
Firstly, a statement: Scotland are out. Hey, I say the new. Looking like Modric has still got it at about 50 years of age. I'm not sure if you had a chance to catch his goal from outside the penalty area, but outside of the boot into the top corner, HG, it's an absolute beaut. And then I think he put the corner in for the third goal as well. So, Scotland, bye-bye. Can hear the last of the nonsense from you lot. Pipe down, jocks. And if there is any Scottish fans of the Cheese Room, I wholeheartedly apologise, but I doubt it because we're all from the south, right? The second thing is Sancho. What's he got to do to get in the side, HG? I mean, literally, there's a good comment there. Has Sancho slept with Southgate's wife? I mean, it feels like that, doesn't it? He doesn't make this bench for a couple of the games, and then he makes the bench today, and I thought, well, he's got to give him some minutes, surely, just to see what he can do. This was, in effect, a dead rubber. We'd qualified anyway. Why didn't he just bring him on and give him, give him a Harry Redknapp, get out there and run around a bit, show what you can do? What's going on? Why is he not utilising someone who... I've heard people who live in Germany and watch German football all the time say we can't believe the way he's being treated. What's it all about?
All of my German friends. Sancho is a top 5 player in that league. Completely total. Lewandowski, all the Bayern players. There is Germans love Jadon Sancho, partly because they don't really have a player like him, but they certainly don't remember England having one like him. I know that England don't play the same style of football that Dortmund do. That possibly is part of the reason why he's never really produced it for England. But yeah, when you see that Bukayo Saka didn't even make the 23 for the first 2 games, whereas Sancho was on the bench for at least one of them, and then comes in and starts ahead of him, I can't sit here and say it was a bad choice because Saka played quite well. He really did.
Yeah.
But it doesn't seem to be very logical. If Sancho is the worst of our wing players, let's say, then he stays on the bench or he's not in the 23 the whole time. That there's a good chance that possibly if Chilwell and Mount weren't self-isolating, that maybe Sancho wouldn't have been in the 23 tonight. It's a bit bemusing when you do know how good Sancho is, and I think that the fans in the stadium, when he did come on for the final, 10 minutes or so tonight, there was one chance where he got the ball to run at the defender, and everyone was off the edge of their seats because they've seen him, even if it's just highlights. They've seen him do fantastic things for Dortmund. He's such an intelligent footballer, but he needs players to run off him, and that's maybe where England struggle. Even the goal that we did score. There was a bit of movement in the box from Sterling to get to the back stick and nod it in, but we don't really make runs in various directions. It is kind of side to side and hope to create something maybe through patience. Whereas Dortmund are full on. They like to attack as soon as they get the ball, and Sancho is a massive part of it. So like I don't know what he has to do. I don't think he slept with Southgate's wife. Although given what Southgate looks like, perhaps it would be a good idea for her. Anyway, I can't say that. It's I shouldn't say that. I'm not one to say that really. But yeah, I don't know. Sancho to me, if he's not starting, should be the first option off the bench, because he is that good. It's a bit perplexing, but yeah, again, like we can sit here and moan about it. England haven't conceded a goal yet. We've won 2 out of 3. Like again, it is about the result. Tournament football is about the result. But yeah, I think that he turns out that he might be. There's always this one England player that for some reason doesn't really fit into the team, and the manager thinks that he's a bit of a maverick and can't be trusted. And suddenly, with Grealish and Sancho around, Southgate's got 2 possible scapegoats. And I wonder how much German football Southgate actually watches. Because when does he fly over to Germany to watch these games? He's got so many games in the Premier League to watch that maybe he doesn't do it as often as he should. But like even if you just watch the highlights and you looked at the statistics, you'd want to know a bit more about Sancho because he produces, week in, week out, really.
Yeah. Yeah, no, absolutely. Few comments. I mean, I'm sure I know the one you're laughing at. HG is Brad Pitt next to Southgate. Don't tell him that, Neo, for God's sake.
Yeah, it is quite a low bar. I think we can say that. Like Brad Pitt next to Southgate doesn't make me Brad Pitt. I mean, that really doesn't.
We'll move on. I'm going to move on and just pretend that didn't happen. Bellingham looked decent, but need to see a bit more of him. I've watched Bellingham quite a bit. I think he's a fantastic player. I think really is. I think he's better than what we're playing in midfield right now, if I'm being really honest.
I would agree.
Hate to say, Sacco the Gooner played well. He is a Gooner, but I fell asleep.
But he won't be for much longer. That's the good thing. Like we can hope that some bigger team will come in and take him away. Look, I know he signed a new deal at Arsenal, but if Arsenal don't improve, Saka won't be there for that long. He'll get snapped up. And again, he's good enough to not just play in England. I think he could play anywhere. I mean, he's 19 years old, Bukayo Saka. If it, when you think about what he can do. Massive future, massive future, and on his way to being world class. I completely believe that. But let's just hope it's with someone else. I realize it won't be Spurs, but let's hope it's with someone else and sooner rather than later.
Cap says not one substitution in any game has made a significant difference. I'd agree with that. I think that's maybe because of the turgid fixed formation. There's no freedom given, really. I think it is literally Mourinho ball. It's like get a goal up and then knock it about as safe as you possibly can, isn't it? I mean,
we're not going for the jugular. I mean, let's be fair. We beat the Czechs 5-0 in qualifying, right? I mean, so it's not that long ago. We played them at Wembley. We beat them 5-0. I think the commentary I was listening to said it was the Czechs' biggest ever defeat in European qualifying. There's no guarantee that we can do that every game. And obviously the Czechs, I think they played quite well. I think Patrick Schick is a pretty good striker. And
he's proved that.
Yeah, I mean, the goals he scored have been quality, but just, his link-up play, he's not just a striker. He can do a bit of everything. So perhaps we were fortunate to see him go off and Spurs' own Thomas Peckart came on to replace him. But, I don't know. It is you're hopeful, right? Obviously as Spurs fans, we're always hopeful that it's going to click, and at one point everything's going to fall into place, and we're going to wipe a team, just thrash them, because I think the quality is there, but it may well help. Let's imagine that Mount and Chilwell are out of the next game as well because they're self-isolating. I don't know what the rule is, but. No. But the thing is, it's not. It's hopeful, not because I think they're bad players. I don't. I think they're very good players. But
I want to see more of that.
Yeah, I would prefer to see Grealish, but Mount to me, he's an international player too. Bellingham, Mount, that they are quality. Henderson, I think, did make us look a little bit better when he came on. I think it gave Phillips a bit more freedom to do what he can, but Phillips to me is pretty limited. So I think if it was Henderson and Bellingham, instead of Rice and Mount or Rice and Phillips, I'd be all right with that. I don't mind that. But to me, again, it's all about finding the best formation. Are we better with three at the back like we showed in the 2018 World Cup? Or are we really going to be a 4-3-3? And if we do that, then who is the three? Is Foden going to come back in? Because to me, it's Foden or Grealish, and it's Saka or Sterling or Sancho. Like those are the difficult choices, and finding out which combination works best. That's what Southgate's going to get paid for.
Yeah.
And I don't think
Well,
there are many.
I've been wondering what he gets paid for, if I'm honest, HG.
Well, I just don't think there are many people who have looked at that and think that he has found the right balance. And that's just it. Like, again, results are great. We can't complain about it. But for England to perform at their best, at their highest, I don't think he's found the formula yet.
Well, the pressure is on now. So, France, Germany, or Portugal? Firstly, HG, which one do you want? And have we got a realistic chance of beating any of them? And I mean, realistic the way we've played so far.
Which one I want? Not because I think that we could beat them, but I think I'd like to see England versus Germany. I don't want to lose to the French, and I don't want to lose to Portugal. There's like that; those are two countries that, I mean, you look at the Portuguese squad; it's full of talent. You look at the French squad; it's full of talent. You look at the German squad; you think, yeah, they've got some quality players. Obviously, they do. They can turn it on against whoever, but yeah, maybe we can do something against the Germans. We beat them in friendlies, not often, but it's not that rare. Again, it's at Wembley. Like, no one wants to see a game like that in the round of 16,
Yeah.
but it's almost certainly going to happen because the three of them are in the same group. I don't know. Like, I think
Didn't rig the draw well enough.
yeah, I mean, yeah, we didn't rig it at all. But like, I mean, this is it. Like, this is going to feel like England's, Euros, right? Because we get to host every game. I mean, it will be if we get through this one. If we get to the final now, we'll only play one game away from Wembley. That's basically like having a home tournament. But I think with Germany, like, yes, they played well against Portugal, but maybe Portugal were a bit stupid when it came to defending, and the Germans took advantage. If we kept it tight, the Germans and their 3-4-3, that they don't look massively convincing with it. I think they're still trying to figure out how it works for them. They don't have a central striker that is the type of threat that you would want. I mean, they're playing Havertz and Muller, who are great players, but that they don't have that focal point. Looking at it, you'd think that Germany is probably the best chance we have, but that's not to say it's a good chance. It's just better than the French and Portuguese. We can hope that Hungary somehow fluke it. That is the best possible outcome for England.
I actually kind of hope we do get Germany, and they have to face into their demons because we've lost to them on penalties so many times, and just lost to in general so many times. And I think if we beat that, it will be so big for confidence that could be the propellant that takes us all the way. And potentially, I'm led to believe by certain pundits that we would have an easier run if we get through that game than perhaps if we'd have finished second in the group. So,
like if you look at the guaranteed qualifiers right now in the half that England's going to be in, the four guaranteed teams are Wales, Denmark, Holland, and England, right? So now, obviously, if you add Germany to that mix, that would be a difficult side. But if you beat Germany and you're playing the winner of, I mean, I think it's the winner of Group E, which could be Sweden. If Sweden beat Poland, they'll win that group. So you're looking at Sweden and a third place team, and then either Holland, another third place team, Wales and Denmark. That looks the easier half of the draw. But I mean, watching Dutch TV like I do now to watch these games, the Dutch are worried that the third place team that they have to play will also come from Group F. So you may end up with both Germany and Portugal in our half of the draw, and suddenly it looks a lot more even. But if that doesn't happen, and I think Croatia's victory tonight actually makes it less likely that the Group F goes to play the Dutch, then it seems the easier side. But again, like, England aren't really in a position to look too far ahead. We're going to have a difficult game that we're going to need 40,000 to really be behind the side, and we're going to need to be brave and go for it, because Nobody wants to watch England go out with a whimper. We see that far too often. Let's go, take the game. If we lose the game 3-2, having had a go, great. As long as we don't make stupid mistakes, as long as we don't get someone sent off, as long as we can say at the end of it, we were beaten by the better team, then I think it's, what more can you really ask for? If you're going to lose, you want to lose in that way. But yeah, like we can't speculate too much, but I think we're going to be in the better half of the draw. Let's put it like that.
Well, we're going to find out very soon who we're facing, and it's next Tuesday. So next Tuesday will be a big. I'm going to have to book the night off the cheese room, I think, because that will be. I've got to go out with a bang and have a few beers because it might be the last time I get to do it as an England fan for at least a year. A year and a half.
It's a whole week.
Is
it
it's a whole week
before England play again? Yeah,
whole week.
This is we always, you always see managers complaining that they don't get enough time to train with the team and to set things up. Like Southgate will know tomorrow. Day. Southgate will know tomorrow who our opponent is. He'll have 6 days to prepare for it. There's not many excuses now for him. He's been England manager for a number of years. He took over 2016. The World Cup, we did well. Getting to the semi-finals is a great result, but we can't lie and say that we had the most difficult path to get there. We were, relatively average in the tournament. Just took advantage of the fact that we were good at set pieces and that we were, our defense was relatively good. This is a much tougher tournament.
It still is. We've got 3 clean sheets, as is pointed out by Nick there. A live watch along next Tuesday. Come on, do it. I'm sorry. I don't think I can commit to that, unfortunately. We're going to wrap there, HG. 30 minutes, a quick one tonight to wet your whistle. We'll be back very, very soon, no doubt. And in the meantime, come on, England. It's coming home.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's coming home. Come on, England. Right. This is my team, right?